You set an alarm, prepare for the interview, dress carefully, take the route you know, and arrive on time. You have done everything within your power, and then you do not get the job. Or you do get it, but it turns out to be nothing like what you expected. Or something entirely unrelated happens. The interviewer, impressed by you in a different way, hands you something you never asked for. Or you end up somewhere you never intended to be at all. This is the structure of every action you have ever taken. The Sanskrit word for action is karma, any deliberate effort you make toward a desired end. What you want from that effort is the karma-phala, the fruit or result of the action. Wanting results is what makes action possible in the first place. No one waters a plant without expecting it to grow. No one speaks without expecting to be heard. Even breathing produces a result. Acting without any expectation of outcome is impossible, and presenting it as the meaning of karma yoga is one of the oldest and most widespread confusions around the subject. The real problem is more specific, the gap between the result you expected and the result you got. Cross a road to catch a bus. Four things can happen. You catch it, success, the result matches your effort. You miss it, but a friend drives by and drops you off closer to your destination than the bus would have, more than you expected. You miss the bus and have to walk, less than you expected. Or you step off the pavement and wake up in a hospital. The opposite of what you intended. Same action, same effort. Four completely different outcomes. Once the action is taken, which of the four you get is not in your hands. This is an empirical fact about the structure of action itself. What makes this difficult is that we are not neutral about outcomes. We come to every action already loaded with ragadvesha, a specific set of likes and dislikes, attractions and aversions, preferences already formed before the action begins. You do not just want a job, you want that job. You do not just want the project to succeed, you want it to succeed in the way you envisioned. When the result matches the like, there is a brief satisfaction. When it does not, when you get less than expected, or the opposite of what you worked for, the like becomes the exact measure of the disappointment, because the next action is taken while still carrying the residue of the last disappointment. The cycle compounds. Effort follows desire. Result diverges from expectation. Frustration accumulates. The next effort is made from a more agitated starting point. The false assumption at the center of all this is that you are the author of the result, that if you try hard enough, plan carefully enough, want it sincerely enough, the result will comply. When it does not, the conclusion drawn is either that you failed, or that life is unfair, or both. Neither conclusion helps with the next action. Vedanta observes something more precise. You have genuine choice in the action, but no power over the result. These are two different domains, governed by two different orders. Conflating them is the source of the cycle. It is exactly this conflation that karma yoga addresses. Not by removing desire, not by counseling indifference, but by offering a transformed understanding of what role action plays in the larger order of things. In the Vedantic tradition, yoga in the compound karma yoga has one precise meaning, a proper attitude, a bhavana, that transforms the quality of how an action is held. Karma yoga is an approach to all action. The Sanskrit word karma here means proper or appropriate action. The Sanskrit word yoga means the specific attitude brought to that action. The definition is exact: proper action performed with a proper attitude. What makes this a spiritual discipline rather than a life skill tip is what that attitude does to you over time. Most people who hear karma yoga assume the teaching is about what you do. Go serve at a charity, volunteer, contribute something selfless. The teachers in this tradition are unambiguous. The action alone is not the yoga. A social worker who performs service while fuming about uncooperative colleagues, counting successes, and collapsing when the organization fails them is performing action, not yoga. An accountant filling in spreadsheets with the proper attitude is practicing karma yoga. The transformation is entirely in the attitude, not in the title of the job. When action is performed to fulfill likes and satisfy dislikes, to get what you want and avoid what you do not want, the result of every action lands on you as either a reward or a verdict. Success inflates, failure deflates. The mind is at the mercy of outcomes it cannot control. Karma yoga converts binding action into a means of liberation. Think of raw cobra venom. By itself it kills. Treated through a specific chemical process, the same substance becomes a life-saving medicine. The poison has not changed. The treatment has changed everything about what it does. Karma, driven by likes and dislikes, is the raw venom. The attitudinal change of karma yoga is the chemical treatment. The binding karma becomes, through this treatment, the very means of inner freedom. Karma yoga is the practice of performing your actions with an attitude that stops those actions from adding to the psychological weight you carry. The common objection surfaces almost automatically. But if I am not invested in results, why would I act well? This assumes that the only engine for quality action is ego investment, that the moment you stop making results personal, you stop caring about the action. Karma yoga directly contests this. The discipline asks you to put full effort into the action and to recognize that the result, after your effort, is no longer in your hands. Full effort and full surrender of the result can coexist. They must coexist, because the alternative, full effort plus the claim that the result is also yours to control, produces the anxiety, the compulsion, and the exhaustion that makes action feel like bondage. We have been conditioned to treat effort and ownership of result as a package. Karma yoga is the surgical separation of these two. You act, you choose what to do and how to do it. That domain is yours. Then the result emerges. From the action, from conditions you do not control, from the accumulated effects of countless prior causes. And that domain is not yours. Knowing the boundary is not passivity, it is precision. Staying on your side of that boundary without grabbing for the other side is the practice. The attitude you bring to action matters enormously. But attitude applied to the wrong action does not make that action yoga. Karma yoga requires two things: proper action and proper attitude. Proper action is action aligned with Dharma, the universal ethical norms that govern human conduct, and more specifically with your svadharma, the duties that belong to you based on your character, your relationships, and your place in the larger order of things. Dharma here does not mean religion in the sense of ritual belief. It means the norms that make human life coherent and livable. When you interact with other people, with the environment, with society, there are ways of acting that contribute to the whole and ways that deplete it. Dharma is the first category. The Bhagavad Gita is precise about this. Choice in action implies norms. The fact that you can choose your actions means those choices are not arbitrary. They are measured against a standard. That standard is Dharma. Svadharma takes this further. A parent's duties differ from a student's. A leader's duties differ from a follower's. What makes an action yours to perform depends on your svabhava, your character and disposition, and the particular set of relationships and responsibilities your life has placed you in. Performing someone else's duty, however flawlessly, is not svadharma. The tradition goes so far as to say that doing your own duty imperfectly is better than doing another's duty perfectly. The criterion for proper action is not excellence in execution. It is fidelity to what is yours to do. The Vedic tradition gives one of the clearest frameworks for understanding this through the Pancha Mahayajna, the 5 great sacrifices. These are daily and occasional duties toward the cosmic order, the ancestors, the teachers in scriptural tradition, other human beings, and other living creatures. Together, these represent a life in which the individual is a consistent contributor rather than only a consumer. They are called nitya naimatika karma, actions prescribed as compulsory, performed not for personal gain, but as one's standing obligation to the world. Most of us approach daily action from the question, what do I get from this? The Pancha Mahayajna reframes the question, what does this situation, this relationship, this moment require from me? The shift from what can I extract to what is mine to contribute is not sentimental generosity. There are actions the tradition prescribes. You are called to do them. There are actions the tradition prohibits. You are called to avoid them. And there is a large middle ground of optional actions that may or may not be appropriate depending on context. Proper action, in the karma yoga sense, begins with the prescribed and works outward from there. If you are performing an action that benefits only yourself at the expense of others, that violates a relationship, or that you know to be harmful, no amount of attitudinal refinement makes it yoga. The action itself must first pass the test of dharma. Karma yoga is not a technique that can be overlaid on any activity whatsoever to render it spiritual. It has prerequisites. The distinction between action and result is not motivational advice. It is a statement of fact about how reality works. You have a choice about what you do. You do not have a choice about what happens because of it. The action is yours. The result is not. When you study for an exam, the studying is in your hands. The grade is not. It depends on the questions asked. The examiner's rubric, your recall on that particular morning, 100 factors outside your reach. Treating the result as though it were yours to control is a confusion about where your power ends. Vedanta names the force that governs results karma-phala data, the giver of the fruits of action. It is the total cosmic order, Ishvara, the sum of all causes and conditions that converge to produce every outcome. Your action enters this order as one input among countless others. The result that emerges belongs to the whole, not to you alone. This recognition is what makes the karma yoga attitude possible. That attitude has two precise components. The first is Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, the attitude of offering. Before the result is even known, you orient your action differently, not as a transaction you are making with the world to extract a specific outcome, but as a contribution, an offering to the total order of which you are a part. You bring your full effort, you apply your skill, you act in accordance with what is right, and then you release the action, not out of indifference, but out of an accurate understanding that what comes next is not yours to command. The second is prasada bhavana, the attitude of receiving. Whatever result arrives, success, partial success, failure, or something entirely unexpected, you receive it as prasada, as a sacred offering returned to you from the total order, with the genuine recognition that this result, shaped by the full weight of past actions and present conditions, is precisely what this situation produced. It is the universe's accounting, not a personal verdict on your worth. Two people with the same illness, the same symptoms, the same treatment. One recovers, the other does not. The doctor who performed the same procedure on both patients did not fail the second through carelessness. The result belonged to causes far larger than the treatment administered. A doctor who understands this can act with complete care and commitment and still hold the outcome with an open hand. One who does not will be devastated by every patient lost, compounded by the false belief that the result was theirs to have controlled. Samatvam, evenness of mind toward results, is not emotional flatness. It is the refusal to let results determine your inner stability, because you have grounded that stability in something results cannot touch, the integrity of the action itself and its offering. This is why the confusion that karma yoga means acting without expecting results is so common and so unhelpful. No living being acts without expecting a result. The teaching is that you should expect results while knowing clearly that expecting them does not make them yours to control. You bring everything to the action. You receive everything from the result. And the ego's grip on both, the insistence on being the sole author of what you do and the sole recipient of what you deserve, is what karma yoga loosens. The twofold attitude is not passive resignation. It is a precise reorientation of energy. Full engagement going in, full openness coming out. Karmashu kaushalam is rendered as skill in action. A pickpocket is skilled, the extraction is precise, the timing exact, the mark never notices. By any measure of technical proficiency, this is expertise, but no one would call a pickpocket a yogi. Physical dexterity, professional competence, even creative brilliance are forms of efficiency. They say nothing about the what or the why of action. Efficiency tells you how well a thing is done, and it is silent on whether it should be done at all. Kaushalam, in the precise Vedantic sense, is discretion, the capacity to choose actions aligned with Dharma. The question is not, can I do this well, but is this what ought to be done? And am I doing it in a way that does not violate the order within which I live? This is why Swami Dayananda defines Karmasu Kaushalam as the choice of means in keeping with Dharma. The skill is in the selection, not the execution. An ordinary person evaluates an action by its expected result. Will this get me what I want? A karma yogi evaluates it differently. Is this the action called for here? Given who I am and what this situation requires, measured against a standard that is not mine alone, that discernment is kaushalam. Kaushalam also describes the intelligence that precedes the offering, the clarity about what is worth offering in the first place. You cannot offer just any action to the total order. The offering must be one that Dharma would sanction. Skill, properly understood, is the joint operation of ethical discernment and maintained equanimity, choosing rightly, then releasing completely. The cobra poison illustration from Swami Paramarthananda makes this precise. Raw cobra venom is lethal. Treated through the right chemical process, it becomes anti-venom, the very substance that saves a life. Karma driven by raga devesha, by the push and pull of personal likes and dislikes, is the raw poison. It binds, it accumulates, it perpetuates the very agitation it seeks to resolve. The chemical process of kaushalam, choosing actions through dharmic discernment and meeting their results with equanimity, converts that same energy into something liberating. The action has not disappeared. The attitude and the selection have transformed its effect. The question is not whether the surgeon operates with precision, but whether the surgeon acts from clarity about what is right, without personal craving or aversion warping the decision. A person with kaushalam may not be the most technically gifted in a room. They are the one whose actions, over time, do not leave residue, no swollen expectations, no corrosive resentment, no accumulating sense of grievance or entitlement. Every action driven by ragadvesha, compulsive desire or reflexive aversion, leaves a residue. The desire fulfilled strengthens the craving for more. The desire thwarted hardens into resentment. Over time, bishimam, these accumulated reactions create a mind that is chasing certain outcomes, pushing away others, unable to be still when neither pursuit nor avoidance is available. Karma yoga interrupts this cycle. When an action is offered to Ishvara as Ishvara Arpana Bhavana rather than executed for a particular desired result, the action is no longer fully owned by the ego. When the result is received as prasada bhavana, as what the total order has returned, not as what I earned or failed to earn, the ego cannot claim the outcome as a victory to inflate itself or a defeat to defend itself against. The charge that results carry begins to reduce. The ragadvesha pattern does not instantly disappear, but it is no longer being continuously refueled. This gradual neutralization is what the tradition calls sita shuddhi, the purification of the mind. Sita refers to the mind as a whole, including its emotional and cognitive dimensions. Shuddhi means cleansing, not suppression. The likes and dislikes are not forced underground. They are starved of the identification that feeds them. A mind that has undergone this cleansing becomes calm, stable, and subtle in a way a mind run by preference and avoidance cannot be. A mirror covered in dust is fully capable of reflecting, but the dust prevents it. The mirror's capacity is not the problem. The dust is. Karma yoga is the cloth. The self, your actual nature, is already present behind the agitation. But a mind dense with raga devesha cannot reflect that reality clearly enough to recognize it. This is why the tradition is precise about karma yoga's role. It is an indirect means to liberation, not a direct one. It does not produce self-knowledge. It produces a mind fit to receive that knowledge. The knowledge itself arrives through dedicated inquiry, hearing, reflecting, and assimilating. That inquiry requires a particular quality of mind, steady, unobsessed with outcomes, capable of sustained attention without the interference of chronic desire and chronic resistance. A mind still running on raga devesha cannot hold the teaching long enough for it to land. Swami Dayananda puts this with precision. Without antakarana shuddhi, purification of the internal instrument, knowledge cannot take place in any functional sense. A person may hear the words and agree with them, but agreement and recognition are not the same thing. Recognition requires a mind that is genuinely available. And that availability is what Siddha Shuddhi delivers. Two misunderstandings follow naturally from everything said so far, and both need to be addressed directly. The first, if results are not in your hands, does karma yoga mean surrendering to whatever happens? The law of karma is the opposite of fatalism. Fatalism says the future is fixed regardless of what you do. Karma says the present is the product of the past, which means the future is the product of what you do now. The responsibility lands on you. What karma yoga insists on is a clear-eyed recognition of where your freedom operates. In choosing the action, not in dictating the result, you have full authority, purushartha, human effort and free will, over which action you take, whether it aligns with dharma and the attitude you bring to it. What you do not have authority over is what emerges from that action, because that result is determined by the totality of causes already set in motion, far beyond any single person's reach. Karma yoga does not drain the pool. The challenges of life remain exactly where they are. What changes is you, your capacity to navigate those challenges without drowning in them. The world is not rearranged. The swimmer is trained. The second misunderstanding is subtler and more dangerous. The assumption that consistent karma yoga practice will itself deliver liberation. You practice for years. The mind becomes calmer. The ego loosens. Raga dvesha quietens. And surely liberation is just a few more steps down the same road. No, karma yoga is an indirect means to moksha. Liberation is achieved by self-knowledge, jnanam, the direct recognition of what you actually are. Karma yoga prepares the instrument through which that knowledge can land and hold. It cleans the mirror. But a clean mirror does not produce the reflection. Light must strike it. That light is jnanam. And no amount of scrubbing produces light. The pole vaulter makes this visible. Karma yoga is the pole. Without it, the vaulter cannot leave the ground. The weight of a distracted, ego-driven, raga-dvesha-saturated mind keeps the seeker firmly earthbound. The pole is essential, but to cross the bar and land on the other side, the pole must be released. The practice that builds the capacity must be transcended by the knowledge it was preparing the mind to receive. Karma yoga produces citta shuddhi, purification of the mind. That purified mind becomes fit for the study and assimilation of Vedantic teaching under a teacher. That study, shravana, produces jnanam. Jnanam alone gives moksha. Missing this sequence produces a seeker who practices beautifully for decades and remains, underneath the practice, still waiting. The practice has done its job. The job was never to deliver the final destination. It was to prepare the person who will recognize it. A purified mind is not a liberated mind. It is a mind ready to discover that it was never bound. The practice has loosened something. The desperate grip on results has softened. The frantic negotiation with outcomes has quieted. What remains when the noise of doership fades is not emptiness. It is a presence that was never absent. You are not the doer. Swami Paramarthananda states it directly. Atma, being limitless, cannot, by its very nature, perform any action. Action requires movement, change, limitation, a boundary that shifts from here to there. The self, Atman, has no such boundary. It is a karta, the non-doer. And because it never acts, it never reaps. Abhokta, the non-enjoyer. It is untouched by every transaction the body-mind has ever carried out. What has been acting all along is the ahankara, the ego, the sense of I am the one doing this. The ahankara is real as a functional instrument. It plans, executes, tires, worries, but it is not you. You are what remains when it is observed. You are the sakshi, the witness, the pure awareness in which all action arises and subsides without leaving a mark. Mirage water appears vividly on the road. It looks wet. It looks real. And yet it does not wet the sand beneath it. Not a single grain is moistened. The sakshi is the sand. The entire display of action, reaction, success, failure, gain, loss. It appears in awareness, is seen by awareness, and leaves awareness completely untouched. I, the sakshi, am. That is the recognition. This is why karma yoga had to come first. The mind gripped by ragadvesha cannot hold this recognition for a moment. The ego immediately reasserts, I succeeded, I failed, I was wronged, I deserve. Karma yoga, practiced steadily, has worn down that compulsion. The offering of actions to Ishvara and the reception of results as prasada have gradually disassembled the ego's claim to authorship. The identity with the doer has thinned. The witness, which was always present, has become available to be seen. Swami Dayananda puts it this way: when one knows that the sense organs and organs of action are doing their jobs, driven by nature, by prior causes, by the gunas, the burden of doership lifts. The tattvavat, the one who knows the truth, understands, I am not a doer, in spite of all the actions I do. The actions continue, the body moves, the words come, decisions are made, but the false superimposition, I, the self, am performing these has been seen through. What was a knot is now loose. Raw karma, driven by ego and raga devesha, binds. Karma yoga treated that poison throughout this practice, through Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, through Prasada Bhavana, through Samatvam. What the treatment produced is not a calmer person. It produced a mind capable of knowing that it was never the snake, never bitten, never in danger. The Asanga Atman, the unattached self, has no connection to the wound that the ego spent a lifetime tending. You are that, not as aspiration, as recognition.